All right, so we're gonna walk you guys through the step-by-step process of installing the brand new Evolution CTS3 into your 2019 through early 2022 GM Silverado or Sierra 1500. This works in both the 5.3 liter and the 6.2 liter V8 applications, and it'll work with any of the transmissions available, the 6-speed, the 8-speed, or the 10-speed. This device offers in-vehicle ECM unlocking, and then it also offers in-vehicle TCM unlocking so that we can tune both the engine and the transmission. So the device itself will walk us through the unlock process of both of those modules, and then we'll be able to use that device to flash the truck with our performance tuning. And then obviously you can use that CTS3 monitor as your display. So we're gonna start this install process by plugging it into our OBD port. You can see we've got it mounted here on the dash. The device comes standard with a suction cup mount, but we do offer this specific pillar mount for the 19 through 2022 trucks, which makes it a nice clean install. So we've plugged the device into our OBD port. We're gonna press and hold our start button to power up the vehicle without starting the engine. So you gotta press that button and hold it for about 5 seconds to get that to happen. You'll see that your dash will power up, your radio, HVAC system, all that stuff will turn on. And then our device is gonna walk us through some stuff. This is obviously just a warning that pops up the first time. We're gonna select yes. And this is gonna take us to our main menu of the device itself. Now to start with our tune process, we've gotta unlock the ECM and the TCM before we can install any tuning. So to start this process, we're gonna go ahead and select tuning. And it's gonna try and find our vehicle data. So this is gonna pull our VIN number. It's gonna pull the information out of those modules that the vehicle or that the device needs so that we can make sure we deliver the proper unlock sequence for your specific vehicle. And then we'll actually go back to our PC to plug our device in so that our servers, our update agent server, can deliver the files that are specific for your calibration. So it's asking if we've updated. We're gonna go ahead and skip this step because we are gonna end up going to the PC where it's gonna update everything first. You can go ahead and check for updates if you connect to Wi-Fi and do it through there, but we'll be updating this at our PC here in just a minute. So we're gonna skip this step right now. So we're gonna go ahead and tune our vehicle. Now this is the options of tunes we've got: economy, drive, performance, and extreme. Obviously, everyone's gonna be a little bit different depending on how you drive the vehicle. The economy tune is really good for daily driving. It's really good for a towing application. And this one allows you to run lower octane fuel, so you don't have to run 91 octane or more. You can run an 87 octane on that tune. A lot of guys prefer that as a daily driver tune and towing. The drive tune, again, can be run on 87 octane. It's got a little bit more performance in it compared to the economy tune. It's great for a commuter daily driver application. Performance and extreme are where we're gonna need to go into the higher octane fuels. Performance is gonna require you to run 91 octane to get the most potential out of the tune itself and get the most power. And then our extreme, we can actually run 93 octane and get our max potential. This truck that we're installing this in is a AT4 truck that's outfitted with the 6.2 liter 10-speed. So we can get really good power gains out of that extreme tune in this 6.2 liter. But for this particular application, we're gonna install the drive tune. And then we've got the ability to select a couple of different transmission shift tunes. So we can keep our, modify the stock trans, we can install our firm shift tune and then our hard shift tune. For a daily driver, the firm shift offers the best feel, I personally feel like, that most people will prefer that firm shift. The hard shift is obviously a little bit more aggressive shift. It's a much more quick and what's the right word? The transition from shift to shift is much more noticeable in the hard shift tune. That's one for the guys that are doing a lot of heavy performance. If you're doing a lot of wide open throttle stuff, that hard shift tune works really well. But for a daily driver commuting tuning, I really like the firm shift tune personally. Now we're gonna go ahead and press continue to begin reading the vehicle's factory data. Now at this point, it's trying to pull the data from the ECM and the TCM so that it can save those stock calibrations. But because this is the first time we're tuning the vehicle, it has recognized that those modules are locked. So it says the control units in this vehicle are currently not supported. An update may be required. Connect your device to the PC and run the update agent client to download the update. So basically what the device has done is it has stored your factory VIN and calibration stuff from those modules. And now we're gonna go back to our PC and plug the device into our update agent software so that we can deliver the specific files that we need for your vehicle. This will be different for every vehicle out there. So we do need to go to the PC and install our update. So we'll be able to unplug the device now and go back to the computer and get those files put into the device. So we can turn the vehicle off just by pressing our start stop button, obviously. And then we can unplug from the OBD2 port to power down the device. And then we'll remove it from its mount and head into the computer to get those updates done. All right, so we've moved in here to the computer so we can apply those updates to the device. If you don't already have our update agent software, you can go right to edgeproducts.com. Here's our homepage. Up here at the top, you've got a support tab that we can open up. And the very first option you have is software updates. You scroll down on this page, we need to install the update agent / ignition software. So it's right here. It is available to be downloaded for Mac or for PC. Obviously we've already got it downloaded on this computer, so we're not gonna walk through those steps, but it'll download that software. Once that software is downloaded, you can open it up, and this is what will be presented to you. Get this a little larger so you can see it. It's telling us that we can connect our device. So with the USB cable that's included with the device when you purchase it, you just need to plug into the bottom port on that CTS3 device. And you'll see that the device will power up, and then it'll connect with your PC, and your PC will actually be able to auto-locate that drive. And our update agent will recognize that it's been plugged in. You can see that the software is now checking the device. It's recognized our product SKU. This is the part number for that 19 to 22 GM gas. It's also recognized the serial number on our device here. So it's going to check the database for the updates specific to that serial number, and it shows that we have updates available. We want to install them now. We're going to select yes. It says please connect to your vehicle to unlock your ECU, so we're going to select OK. Please connect to the vehicle to read a TCM. Those are steps that we've done, obviously. Now it says update agent was able to get the stock files to the device successfully. We're going to select OK again. Now it's going to start downloading those files into the device itself. Here's our transmission files being delivered. And now it's downloading all of the files we need into our CTS3 device so we can go back out to the vehicle and unlock the ECM and TCM and then install our flash tuning. So this step only takes a couple of minutes here at the PC. At this point, you'll see your device working through the installation of the files. Once they've been transferred from the PC to the device, you'll see those updates on the screen of the device itself. The device is going to reboot now. And now that the update is completed, you see that the update agent software said it was completed and it's launched our ignition store. So this is after the update process is completed, it sends you to this store where you can buy additional products for your CTS3 device. For this specific part number, the only upgrade we have available is an extended warranty. So you can purchase an additional 1-year warranty for $39.95 at any time after you purchase the device. So within that first year you own the device, you can come in here and extend that warranty 12 months just by plugging it in, updating, and then downloading that extended warranty. But now that we're done, we can go ahead and close our ignition software and our website information, and we can unplug our device from the computer and go back out to the truck and start our unlock. All right, we're back at our truck. We're gonna plug back into our OBD port. Got it mounted back up on our mount. We're gonna power up. We're gonna press and hold that start button to power up the vehicle without the ignition or the engine running again. I will make note that if you'll notice, we have not run our OBD cable nicely behind the dash yet. It's just kind of looped over the vent here. And that's because we're gonna have to move the device out to the fender well area when we go through the ECM and TCM unlock. So we don't want to permanently mount this just yet. We'll route that wire when we're all done with the process. So we're back into our main menu. We're gonna select tuning again. And we're gonna go through this process again because now it will recognize the information that we need to unlock those devices. So we're gonna go ahead and select tune. We already updated, so we can skip this step. All right, so we're gonna select tune vehicle. We're gonna select that drive tune, the firm shift, and we're gonna go ahead and press continue to begin reading the vehicle's factory data. You can see that we're actually reading the files now, where that first time it did not, because it needed to get the information from our server for your specific vehicle. So now it's actually doing the ECM backup. Now you can see it's moving on to the TCM. Now the device is doing this obviously so in the future when you need to return the vehicle to factory settings, the device has all of that stuff saved, so you can return to a factory file at any time. Now at this point it's asking if we would like to install the tune as it is or if we'd like to customize the tune by modifying the adjustable parameters. This is where we can kind of go in and fine tune that calibration specific for your needs. So for you guys that have done aftermarket wheels and tires, or you want to make any changes, we can go ahead and select customize, and it'll present us with all the options we can put into that drive tune that we've already selected. So we can kind of fine tune that drive file specific for our needs. So it's going to pull the data that we'll be able to adjust and present it to you. We're going to skip the tutorial, and we've got all these features. So the very first one at the top is switches. So if we select that, that's where we can go in and remember some of the other settings or change them. So we've got 4-cylinder mode. That's your active fuel management or your dynamic fuel management, depending on which engine you have. We can go ahead and select the button to turn that off. So with this device, we can disable your AFM and your DFM mode so that the vehicle stays in V8 all of the time. So we're gonna go ahead and turn that system off. Now on these other ones, we've got remember normal mode, sport mode, chassis mode, mountain mode, and then your start stop mode, tow haul, etc. So what this does is that your drive mode on that selector on the left side of your steering wheel, where you can select your sport mode in some of these models, or you can select your tow haul. Instead of having to select sport mode every time you get in the vehicle with that switch, the device is going to allow the ECM to remember what mode you were in when you shut the truck off. So if you like driving in sport mode all the time, this will remember that every time you shut the truck off, it'll start back up in whatever drive mode you were in when you turned it off. Same with our auto start stop. If you're someone that does not like having the start stop and you reach over and press the button so that it disables that system so you don't have start stop working, this will remember and you won't have to push that button on your dash anymore. Same thing with your tow haul mode. If you spend a lot of your time driving in tow haul mode, we can remember that, so it'll be in tow haul the next time you get in the vehicle. So we're gonna make those changes, select save. Tires, this is where we can go in and change our speedometer so that the speedo will read correctly for a larger tire size. The one thing to remember is that a tire will never actually be as tall as it says on the sidewall. So if you've installed 35, 12, 50, 20s, if you'll take a tape measure and measure from the ground to the top of that tire, you'll find that it doesn't actually stand 35 inches tall. So to get the most accurate speedometer reading, we need to input the actual measured tire height. So a 35 is usually around a 33 3/4 when you measure it. This truck still has the factory tires on it, so we don't need to make that change here. We can change our gear ratio. Again, that's just to calibrate your speedometer so it reads correctly. The only reason you would have to change that setting is if you have physically changed the ring and pinion in your axles. The device knows what your factory ratio is, so you never need to modify this unless you have had the ring and pinion changed by a shop. We can go into our limiters here. This is so we can disable our speed limiter. We'll no longer have that cut off. And then we can also adjust our rev limiter in drive. And then the next feature here is our throttle. This is the throttle booster. So this allows us to change how sensitive that pedal feels. we can just push the button to increase that sensitivity all the way up to 50% over stock. I will tell you that 50% is extremely aggressive, and it can be very hard to drive the vehicle at 50% throttle. If you're towing or daily driving, it can be a little bit too aggressive. For all-out performance and having fun, it's very touchy and it can be a lot of fun. It'll tear the tires right off of it. But if you do a lot of towing and daily driving, most people will settle between 15 and 30% throttle. That's where you get the best feel without it being too jumpy or aggressive. So we're gonna set this one as 20% throttle boost. And this feature allows you to adjust that at any time. So you can go back in and recalibrate. If it's too touchy, you can come in, change the tune, turn it down. And then it also eliminates the need to have an aftermarket throttle booster. That can all be done right here in the device. We've got some fan control here. So we can go in and adjust the percentage of our cooling fans turning on and off. We can adjust some of our fueling at different RPMs. We can adjust spark, idle. That's something that most consumers won't ever need to touch because we fine-tuned that in our calibration. But if you do have some modifications that may require to customize that tune a little bit, you do have the ability to do so. So we've got all the changes we need. We're gonna go ahead and select install. It's gonna tell you what options we've made in the tune, and then we can go ahead and select accept and install, and it's going to save all of those changes into the calibration, and it's gonna build that tune file for a later point when we're ready to flash it into the truck. Obviously, before we are able to flash that tune, we need to go through that unlock process. But we have built a tune, it's gonna save it, and then it's going to present us with the message that says, hey, this ECM is still locked, we need to unlock it before we can move on. It is worth mentioning that that unlock process only needs to be done once. So here's the message here now. This module requires a one-time unlock process in order to accept the tunes. Please install your ECM unlock cable now and then try tuning again to proceed with the unlock. So basically at this point, we need to select continue, and the device will save that tune file that we've built so that when we get past our unlock process, we can just pick up where we've left off here. But like I was saying, that unlock only needs to be done the first time you tune the vehicle. Once we've unlocked the ECM, it's unlocked for good, and changing tune files only takes a couple of minutes. You will never need to use the locksmith and unlock cables after this initial install. So now that we're back to our main menu, we can go ahead and turn the truck off, and then we can unplug our device and we can move on to installing our ECM unlock cables. So we're gonna revert to the instruction manual that came with the locksmith in that other box. So we need to move on to getting our fender liner out of the way so we can access that ECM. Okay, so we've repositioned our camera and have some lighting here in our front fender well area. This is obviously the front driver's tire. The ECM is located directly behind this felt fender liner. To get easier access, we're actually gonna start the truck and we're gonna turn that wheel to the left. We don't wanna go to full lock at the left, but we do wanna move it. So here we're at full lock. We're gonna tip it back just a touch and shut the truck off. This will give us easy access directly into that fender liner area. And basically what we need to do is remove these attachment points. I believe there are 7 of them, up to about the middle of the fender liner, because this front piece will just fold back over the tire to give us access to that ECM. So we'll remove these Torx head screws now, and then we'll show you the access to the ECM so we can get the unlock tool installed. So we've got our Torx bit now. This is a, look here, T15, and we're gonna remove these screws holding this fender liner on. Again, this is only a process that needs to be done one time, the very first time we tune the vehicle. Once we've unlocked these ECM and the TCM for this vehicle, we will not have to ever access this ECM again, so we can change tunes much easier in the future. This is just a necessary step the first time. So we're removing 6 Torx bits, screws, and then there's a plastic push pin up in the top inside that we're going to pull loose. So there's our push pin removed, and now our fender liner can be dropped out of the way so we can get access to that ECM. So here's your first look at that ECM located here behind that fender well liner. You'll see it's got these 3 main connectors here. We need to disconnect all 3 of those so that we can start the unlock process. You'll see that red keeper that's on each one of those connectors. That red keeper will need to be pulled backwards. That's just a safety clip that keeps the connector from coming loose. So you need to remove that red keeper just by pulling it towards the tire with your fingernail. And then this outer black piece of that connector can be depressed here with your finger, and then that lever will open up so that you can disconnect that connector altogether. All right, and we're gonna try and disconnect these connectors without blocking all the light that we've got shining in here. Again, you've got this red keeper that just needs to be pulled back with your nail. Can be a little bit stubborn. We've got all 3 connectors or keepers disconnected now. So now we can depress the tab that's right here above that red keeper and lift that lever. So we've depressed this with our thumb, and then this lever will lift up and completely disengage at the ECM. The one thing to remember is that we don't want to do this too quickly. We need to let the vehicle power down and sit for about 5 minutes before we unplug all of this module so that we can be sure that the ECM has completely shut itself down. So we've got this connector. Plug, we just need to wiggle the connector loose. And then we can move on to the next by depressing the tab. All right, so you can see we've got our 3 connectors disengaged and removed from the ECM itself. And we're gonna take our ECM Unlock harness that came with our Locksmith kit. This is the one that has the 2 large connectors on it, one blue and one gray. And we're gonna connect that right to the ECM, just like the factory connectors were made. Obviously, we're gonna color code here. So we've got a blue connector and a gray connector that are gonna go onto those connectors. We're gonna go ahead and put the gray one on. We can push our keeper back to make sure it's connected. Now we're not gonna close that red keeper because this isn't gonna be permanent. So that's just a step that we don't need to take. But we obviously do need to get the swing lock engaged. So we're gonna bottom out on that blue one. And then you'll be able to close that swing lock. So now with those connections made, we're gonna have the battery clips from the other end of the harness, these 2 here that we've got to run over to our battery. So we're gonna pop the hood and we're gonna run these up through the inside of the fender over to the battery. All right, so moving on to our battery connection. We've got our unlock cable here with our 2 alligator clips. We're gonna run them right up through the inside fender here. Just like so. And then we're gonna run them across the engine bay, right to here, to our engine's battery. Now we gotta open up this red slide cap on the battery. We're gonna put obviously our red alligator clip on the positive, and our black can either go to the battery itself, but there is also this post on the subframe that's also a ground location on this GM application. So we've got that connection made. Now we're gonna go ahead and plug our Locksmith into our unlock cable, and then our CTS3 will plug into the Locksmith. So we're back at the fender. We've got our Locksmith module that came with our kit. You'll find the 6-pin connector on the back side of the Locksmith will plug into that ECM unlock cable. Make that connection. You want to make sure you'll hear it click and that it makes a good connection. And then we've got an OBD 2 port on the other end of that locksmith that we're going to plug in our CTS3 directly into that locksmith. Make sure that it bottoms out. You've got a good connection. And then you'll see that our CTS3 device here has powered up. Now we're going to walk through that ECM unlock process with the device right here. So we're going to go continue with our tune process. It's getting our vehicle data. You'll hear the locksmith clicking the relay in there, powering on and off. It says the module is ready to be unlocked. Press continue to begin the unlock process. So now it's going to start unlocking this module. Now this is a process that's going to take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. So we'll set this CTS3 down here, and then we'll hyperspeed the video so you don't have to sit through this the whole time. But this process will take a little bit of time. You do want to make sure that you have good battery. Make sure that you've got good voltage. We even recommend that you have the vehicle plugged into a battery tender if possible. That will definitely help this process. Make sure that we don't have any failures due to a low voltage. So if you do have a battery charger or a battery tender, it is definitely recommended to go ahead and install that or plug it into your battery so we can make sure we maintain the proper voltage through the entire unlock and tuning process. So we'll set this aside and let it do its thing. All right, so we're back. It's worked through 100% of the unlock process. It's moved on to the next step. Again, you'll hear that locksmith relay clicking a few times. Now it's going to apply the unlock calibrations to the ECM. This isn't actually writing our performance calibrations to the ECM yet. We'll do that inside the cab once we've done the ECM and TCM unlock process. But this is applying the new code basically into the ECM so that the next time we flash the truck, it'll recognize that it's been unlocked. So the device is just about completed applying those calibrations into the ECM for that unlock process. Again, this process was going to take you anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes to do the ECM. We're about 15 minutes into the process now. But it is a necessary step, and it is only need to be done the one time. So once we've unlocked the module, as you can see, it's successfully unlocked. You will no longer need this unlock cable to tune the module. In the future, it does say if we have other modules to unlock, we can move on to those steps now. So for the 8-speed and the 10-speed trucks, we're gonna press continue. We're gonna remove our ECM unlock harness, and then we're gonna get access to our TCM so we can install the TCM unlock harness and move on to that steps. For the guys that have 6-speed trucks, the TCM unlock is not required, so we can just remove all this stuff and then we can move the CTS3 back into the cab and we can start with the flash. But we're gonna move on to the TCM for this 10-speed truck now. We're gonna select continue. The device is now back to its main menu, so we can unplug it, we can disconnect from the battery, and then we can reinstall those 3 connectors back onto the ECM. So we'll move on to that step now. So we're unplugging our CTS3 from the locksmith. We're gonna remove the locksmith from that unlock cable and set it aside. We'll move over to our battery and disconnect that harness from our battery posts. cable back down. Back through here. You'll have to excuse me for getting in the way of the camera view here, but we're gonna disconnect our ECM connectors. Again, you have to depress that center section of the connector with your thumb to get that lever to release and pull up. Once it's all the way up, it'll just wiggle free. And now we've successfully removed our ECM connector, and we can reinstall our 3 connectors from prior. And just as to show you how this works, this is the tab, this is the keeper on the factory connector that you have to slide up to disengage that keeper. And then when you want to open that lever, you have to press this center section of the connector with your thumb. This will depress in, and then this lever will pop up. Hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for you. So now we can move on to reinstalling our connectors. We'll start at the bottom with that blue connector first. Make sure you get it seated properly, then close that lever. It'll click, and then we're gonna close that red keeper. We'll move on to the middle connector. Close the sling lock, close the red keeper. Then we'll put our top connector on, close that lever until we hear it click, and then close the red keeper. Now we can move on to accessing our TCM. To do so, there are 3 bolts that hold the ECM bracket to the vehicle. 2 right here that you can see easily right below the ECM on the frame rail, and then the third one is actually underneath on the bottom side. You need to just use a 10mm socket on a 1/4" ratchet to get to these. Obviously it'd be a little easier to use a impact driver if you've got enough room for yours, but any 10mm is gonna get the job done here. All right, so we've got the outside 2 removed. I'll lay down here under the truck to get access to this third one. It can be reached from the fender liner. Now with those 3 bolts removed, we'll actually be able to swing our ECM completely out of the way to reveal the TCM mounted on the back side. We'll bring our camera in here so you can get a better angle. So here's the TCM mounted on the back side of that tab, and it's gonna have the same style connector with a red keeper and that lever that we need to pop open. So we'll move on to that step next. We'll get that factory connector removed and install the TCM unlock cable. All right, we'll try and get you some angle here. So you can see the TCM here. We've got our factory connector disconnected, and we have the new connector from our TCM unlock harness that will plug right on there. And then we've got the alligator jaws that will run over to the battery just like we did on the ECM. And then we'll plug the locksmith back in to the new TCM unlock cable. That's our connection on the wire here. And then we can plug that CTS3 in and move through the TCM steps just like we did on the ECM. So we'll do that now. All right, so we've got our connectors here at the battery. We're gonna connect our locksmith to that TCM unlock. Again, we've got that pin connector. We wanna make sure it plugs in and is seated. And then we're gonna plug our CTS3 cable into that locksmith, make sure it's fully seated. And then you will see that your monitor again will power up. Now the TCM unlock is much quicker than the ECM. Obviously there's not as many control systems or calibration files inside the TCM as there are in that ECM. So this will go a little bit quicker this time. So once our device powers up, we'll be able to select tune and we'll unlock this TCM. It's gonna pull our vehicle data again. It's just checking to make sure that we're still plugged into the same truck that we've been working on. It's gonna recognize the VIN and the TCM and ECM modules. You'll hear that locksmith relay clicking as it's powering through its cycle. and it's recognized that the TCM has not been unlocked, so we need to continue with that process. So we're going to select continue, and it's going to start unlocking the TCM. Now this is an industry first. Our company and engineers have worked really hard to figure out how to crack into this system so that we can enable this unlocking at home, so you don't have to send in any modules to us. We've been offering the tuning for these trucks for a couple of years, but it has required you to send the ECM to us so we could unlock it, send it back to you before you could flash it. This Locksmith device has allowed us to offer that ability for the consumer at home. This is a first to market for this application. Being able to tune these trucks in your driveway or have your local performance shop do it for you. And this is really changing the way we can flash and tune the GM vehicles. We're also the very first to offer the TCM unlock. So up until this point, we've only been tuning the engine. Now we're gonna be able to actually tune that transmission to help you get that power where it's best. So that's completed our TCM unlock. Obviously it only took about a minute, maybe two, and we've completed. So now we can uninstall our Locksmith. We can remove it from the battery. We'll go and disconnect it from the TCM and remount that ECM module back onto the firewall. We can reinstall our felt liner, and then we can do the final installation of our CTS3 module in the cab of the truck. We can run the wire and tuck it away nicely, but we'll move on to that step now. So we're gonna unplug our CTS3 from the Locksmith. We're gonna unplug the Locksmith from the TCM cable, like so. And then we can disconnect our clips from the battery. You'll notice we did install our battery tender so we could make sure we kept proper voltage in our battery. We're gonna keep that on while we do our flash process, just to make sure we don't have any voltage issues. We can move our TCM cable out of the engine bay, and we're done here under the hood. Again, you need to depress that center part of the TCM. Open the slide, and that TCM cable will come right off. And we are now done with our unlock cables. We will not need to use those ever again. So we're done with our TCM process. We're gonna plug that connector back on to the TCM, make sure it's bottomed out so that our swing lock can close it and pull it securely. You'll hear it click when it's bottomed out, and then you can close that red keeper. Then we can just move our whole ECM bracket back into its original location here, just like so. And we can put our bracket bolts back in place. Again, we've got two here on this side, and there's that one on the bottom. All right, we're done with the ECM and the TCM. Again, we'll be able to remount our felt liner. We can push it back up into place, put those torque bits or torque screws back in place. We're gonna move into the cab and start flash tuning this truck with the Edge performance files. All right, we've completed our unlocks on the ECM and TCM. We're back into the cab. We have finished mounting our CTS3. We ran the cable nice and tight, pulled away the plastic fuse panel cover so we could tuck the wiring up inside there, out of sight, out of mind. We're gonna plug into our OBD port, and then we're gonna press and hold that engine start button to power up the vehicle without starting the engine, obviously. You can see that our monitor will power up here, and we'll be able to walk through the actual tuning process. Again, we'll Mentioned that the device comes preloaded with 4 different tunes to choose from depending on what kind of octane fuel or what you're using the vehicle for. The economy tune is good for obviously fuel economy. It's really great for towing as well. You can run the lower octane fuels. 87 octane is just fine with that tune. The drive tune is the same. It's got a little more performance, but works well with the 87 octane. And then we've got our performance and extreme files that are going to require 91 octane or more to get the best potential out of it. We're going to go ahead and select tune. The CTS3 Evolution device is now pulling that vehicle information. Again, just to confirm that we're still using the same truck. It's got to make sure that it's talking to the same ECM and TCM that we've been dealing with through this whole process. We're going to skip our updates because we know it's up to date at this point. In our tune menu, we're going to select tune vehicle. We're going to select that drive tune like we did before. The firm shift tune, it's going to recognize that it's already built a file for us. Do we want to customize at this point? So we're going to go into the customize settings. And we can go in and it's pulling up the file that we saved originally before we had done our unlocks. Do we want to change that file? Do we want to keep that file, or do we want to reset and start over? We're going to keep those changes that we had already put into the device. So it's going to pull up that tune that had already been built before we unlocked everything. It's remembering our turning off the DFM and the AFM system, remembering our tow haul mode, turn off our speed limiter. We've got our throttle booster set at 20%. We can go ahead and tell it to accept and install. You can see that it's building our drive file. Now it's going to start writing that tune into the ECM. Now this is going to take a couple of minutes to flash that ECM. So we'll just let it do its thing. We can talk a little bit more about the tuning itself and about the device. Again, this Evolution CTS3, this is a product that's been on the market for about 3 years in a lot of different, obviously a lot of diesel applications. And we do offer it for some gas applications as well, some of the older GM Silverado stuff. But this is obviously the first time we've got it out onto the market for the 2019 and newer applications. That ECM and TCM Unlock process took the engineering group a little bit of time to work through. But we are super excited to get this onto the market and be able to get this out into the hands of you guys that own these trucks. Really good power gains. We've seen max gains on the 6.2 liter as high as 45 horsepower over stock in some of the mid RPM range. Peak gains aren't quite as high as the max gains, obviously, but the performance is incredible. If you're someone that is looking to get the most out of your truck, these tune files really drive really well. And we really think you'll appreciate the added power. And then when you've got that 8-speed and 10-speed transmission tuning to back it, it's a whole new driving experience. The 8-speed works okay in stock form, but I mean, tuning it definitely makes this a different driving experience for both daily driving and towing applications. You can see that we've written our ECM tune here, which is asking us to turn off our ignition. So we're gonna press our start stop button, and we're gonna press continue. Going to tell us to turn the ignition back on without starting the engine, so we're going to press and hold. Vehicle is powered up, so we can press continue. That's going to ask us to shut the vehicle off one more time, so we're going to press the engine stop button and continue. And then one final time it's going to ask us to power up one more time. Press and hold, or turn the key to the on position without starting, obviously. Press our continue. Now you can see we're moving on to the TCM, so it's installing that firm shift tune into our TCM. But back to what I was saying, the TCM, the transmission tuning makes this a whole different experience. In the 10-speed trucks and the 8-speed trucks, it makes a huge difference in the way we can apply that power band. We can move those shift points up a little bit higher, where we can get into a little bit more of the power curve before it shifts. So at wide open throttle, it makes a massive difference in the way these trucks drive. We've picked up some really good gains at the track. Our quarter mile and our 0 to 60 times are much better with the tuning. Obviously that's going to vary between a 5.3 and a 6.2 truck, but we do have that data right on our website if you want to look there to see what you can find. The 5.3 with the 8-speed or the 10-speed, I mean, it really does make these a completely different driving experience, and I really think that you'll appreciate the way your truck handles commuting, towing your camp trailer, your bass boat to the lake, whatever it might be you're using that Silverado for. These tunes make a world of difference. Our lower octane tunes, that economy tune, we have seen an improvement in fuel economy as long as you drive the vehicle the way you've always driven it. The one thing we find is that once guys install tuning, they get that improved throttle pedal feel from the throttle boost feature. You want to use that power. So for the first little while, guys are a lot more aggressive on the pedal. So you're not going to see the fuel economy changes right away unless you keep your prior driving situation the same, the characteristics the same. So once the fun experience kind of wears off, the first week or two of driving it, you can settle back into driving it normally, you may see an improvement in your fuel economy, which is obviously a huge bonus with current gas prices. But you will enjoy the way the truck drives with this tuning, and we're pretty confident in that. And we're really excited to finally get this ECM and TCM tuning onto the market. It took us longer than we had hoped, but we are really glad that it's here and that we have it out on the market. And we really look forward to getting the feedback from you guys in the field and see how you use these trucks and what you think of the tuning. So be sure to check out our social media pages, visit our YouTube, leave us some comments, make sure you tag us in any of your social media posts about the product install, how the process went for you. I mean, we really look forward to seeing the user feedback. But if you have any questions or concerns of the process, obviously we've got this installation video. There's more information on the product pages on our website. And then you can also reach out to our Edge Tech support team. They'll be able to help you with any questions that you have specific to the product or your vehicle. You can reach them at 888-360-3343. But again, we hope you have appreciated this process being able to be done at home and be able to tune your truck from here on out. So we've installed our TCM tune. We're going to press our engine stop button to shut the vehicle off. Press continue. It's going to ask us to turn the ignition back on. Again, press and hold for a few seconds until everything powers up on the dash. We'll press continue. One more phase of shutting the vehicle off and pressing continue. And then back to our ignition on again. This will be the final step. Vehicle is on, we're gonna press continue. It's gonna finalize that TCM right. The vehicle has successfully been tuned. We can press continue to go to the main menu. So here we are back at our main menu. Here we can go into our settings. This is something we'll walk through real quick here. We've got display settings, so we can go in and we can adjust device colors. We can do all sorts of things here. We can set up our Wi-Fi, so we can check for updates through Wi-Fi. All sorts of settings here. We can enter our vehicle weight. And then we've got our diagnostics menu. This is where we can go in and check out our trouble codes. We can adjust our TPMS sensors. So if you've installed aftermarket tires and wheels and you want to run a lower pressure than what's stock, you can adjust that pressure right here. We can turn it down so the light on your dash doesn't kick on at the same pressure as factory. We've got the ability to reset an air filter monitor. We can do a trans relearn. And then again, we can read, if you ever get a check engine light, you'd be able to go in here and read those trouble codes right here on the dash with the CTS3 monitor. But we're gonna exit out of here. We're gonna go to our gauge menu. Take just a minute here. It's gonna populate all of the available PIDs, any of the parameters that we can watch in this specific truck. It'll populate those, and then we'll be able to go in and set up our gauge display to show us whatever PIDs we want to keep an eye on, so we can watch some of our fluid temperatures. We can see what gear we're in, RPM. You can even, if you're someone that likes to keep your active fuel management, your dynamic fuel management on, there is a PID that will allow you to watch your cylinder activation, so you can see when it's running in 4-cylinder, 2-cylinder, whatever it might be, so we can go in and adjust. If you want to make changes to the way this is displayed, we can just swipe the screen and we can change the gauge layouts. You can save some of those backgrounds. To change the layouts, you swipe down from the top. You can change the wallpaper on the back of the display. The theme settings is the colors and such, and then you can edit the layout and you can change the way that the display shows you these PIDs. But if you want to change a PID itself, it shows right here, we've got engine speed in the middle, so that's RPM. If you double tap on that PID, it will open up so that we can change whatever PIDs we want to watch. We can select right here on the screen and save that PID to that location. So you can go through and set up the display to monitor whatever it is you want to see. We won't walk you through all of that because everybody's personal preference is going to be a little bit different, but that's kind of a quick tutorial on how to set the screen up. You can swipe from the bottom up to get back to that tuning diagnostics. You can do your performance test. So if you want to do some 0 to 60 or 1/8 mile test, you can do that right there. But that's a quick rundown of the device. We look forward to hearing your feedback on how the tuning and how it drives once you get it out on the street. And we appreciate you watching and following along.